The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tidy for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Rushcliffe, everybody. Today it's Wednesday and I've got another episode for you in this district of Nottinghamshire. Now behind me here you can see there's a gate, and through that gate there's a church. One of two churches we will see in this particular parish. This parish is absolutely massive, by the way. There are two settlements. There's an RAF base, there's a gypsum works, which is now a cement works owned by Tarmac, which is important actually for this first settlement. This is Barnstone because it's down to that cement works that there's a village hall in this place. This is Langar cum Barnstone. Langar cum Barnstone, long triangular land with Bjorn's farm. Today in Rushcliffe we come to Langar cum Barnstone, the biggest one so far in this week's run. As the name suggests, this one consists of two villages, Langar and Barnstone, and they occupy a tract of land about 4 miles southeast of Bingham, close to the Leicestershire border. Langar is based in the western end of the parish, clustered as it is around a square layout of roads with a notable church and estate hall. Barnstone is half a mile to the northeast, and it's a linear settlement. Outside of the villages, the population is scattered across several farms, farmhouses and cottages, although there is some industry present here too. The parish is very low-lying, being in the Vale of Belvoir. The area has some red marl, but principally lies upon lias limestone. This accounts for several quarries and pits developed over the years. One of those can be found in Barnstone, and since 1864, lime kilns have been in operation, churning out vast quantities of cement. The site is owned by Lafarge Tarmac, who are responsible for the village hall. Here we'll learn how. 3 watercourses run through the area. These are Stroom Dyke, Rundle Beck and the River Whippling. All 3 are tributaries of the River Smite, next to which Langar once had a castle. It was lived in by the lords of the manor, but was eventually replaced by the exquisite Langar Hall near the church. There's also a massive RAF base to cover here too. There's loads to cover in general, so let's go. We start with Barnstone, which is the smaller of the two settlements, but no less important than Langar. This is the now disused Church of St Mary, originally built in 1857 in the Gothic Revival style. It was used as a chapel of ease for the much larger Church of St Andrew in Langar. In itself, it may be the successor to an ancient chapel of St Ethelburga or St Aubrey, but this isn't known for sure. Some suggest the church in question was the one that stood on the Holy Field in Sutton, and not here in Barnstone. A small building made of stone, its turret-style tower contains 2 bells. There are memorials inside to the fallen of the 2 world wars and small amounts of Victorian stained glass. There are also 15 coats of arms hanging on the walls, one salvaged from an earlier chapel. The church was closed in 2017. In 2019, plans were submitted to Rushcliffe Borough Council to convert the church into a 5-bedroom home. Barnstone's only other landmark of note is the village hall. Officially termed the Langar cum Barnstone Community Hall, this wouldn't exist had it not been for a nearby quarry. In 1922, the original hall was built by employees of the Barnstone Blue Lias Lime and Cement Co., which is now Tarmac, located to the south of the village. We'll see that later. In 2024, Tarmac donated £140,000 from their Landfill Communities Fund to help build a new hall. This is the result. This brand new asset provides a welcome and safe space for residents to come together. The new facilities are intended to benefit the community for another 100 years. The hall is utilised by a number of groups, including the Vale Market Community Cafe, the Barnstone Brownies, the Beaver Archers, the Vale Ventures Entertainment Group and the Mary Munford Dance Group. It also hosts a mobile post office on a Tuesday. Let's drive through Barnstone now as we make for Langar. The Domesday Book says that Barnstone contained 26 households in 1086. The lord of the manor at that time was William Peveril. Today, Barnstone's population is around 200. It has a few buildings of note, including the Manor House on Main Road, which is a Grade II listed building originating from the 17th century. Also listed is the Rookery, a large mid-18th century house now subdivided into several dwellings. There's also the late 18th century roadside farmhouse and barn too. Barnstone used to have a railway station between 1879 and 1953. The line carried goods traffic to and from some nearby limestone sidings until 1962. All that remains of the line now is the Barnstone Railway Cutting, an area of calcareous grassland classed as a site of special scientific interest. Okay, now we're in Langar, and I've parked on a street called Earl Howe Crescent. Now, Earl Howe is a name that I'll mention a few times in this episode. It's one of many names that are associated with Langar, and you'll see why he's so important as we journey around. Our first job is to head this way, north, towards the school, but that's actually the last landmark. Our first landmark is off to the left, and it's the church. In Langar, as in Barnstone, we start with the church, but this one is actually open. The building you see here, St Andrew's, is not Langar's original church. That was St Ethelburga's, also known as St Aubrey's or St Ambrose's, and it was located about a mile south of where we currently are. The exact location of the church is unknown, but it was a known place of pilgrimage in Saxon times. The current church is known as the Cathedral of the Vale because of its size in relation to the village. It was restored in 1860 by Thomas Butler. It contains many monuments, including some to the Scropes, the Chaworths and the Howes. In particular, the tomb of Thomas Lord Scrope or Scroop and his wife Philadelphia is considered one of the finest of its kind. Although some parts of the building have been altered over the years, the church may look much as it did over 700 years ago. The oldest parts date from the 13th century. It's believed that Sir Robert Tiptoft built the church when he became Lord of the Manor in 1285. In the 15th century, the roof of the nave was made higher and 5 clerestory windows were added to let in more light. The tower was also made taller. Battlements were built along the tops of the walls, which made the church look rather like a castle, probably to match Langar Hall next door. This may have been the work of Sir John Scroop, because he fought many battles for the king. In medieval times, when the Tiptoft family were around, the original Langar Hall was a castle located close to the River Smite. It passed to the Scroops and then to the Howes, who came into the possession of Langar Hall in 1677 through marriage. The early buildings have now disappeared. In the 1820s, Langar Hall burned down, but its replacement wasn't too long in arriving. The modern Langar Hall dates from 1837, and it's a much smaller Georgian mansion. The present hall was constructed by John Marriott, who was a local farmer. It was bought by Annie Bailey in 1860 and has remained in the family ever since. Although originally a family home like the others, in 1983 it was turned into a restaurant and hotel by Imogen Skirving, who was inspired by the idea of a home-from-home type establishment. Now it combines all the charm of an English country house with a few modern touches. Yeah, not the easiest thing to film, Langar Hall. It's in a bit of an awkward position behind the church there and you can't really see a lot of it, but I think I did the best I could. We're now on a footpath that runs diagonally from the church and Langar Hall and leads to a main road. When we get to that main road, we're going to turn left and head back into the village where we're going to see the likes of a pub, there's a school, there's a little park to talk about, all sorts of things really. Our next landmark is the Unicorn's Head, the village pub. Its original name was the Feathers, taken from the plume in the Howe family crest. The current name was adopted after Admiral Howe's death. His estate was bought in 1799 by John Wright, the Nottingham banker and a founder of the Butterley Company. He had a unicorn's head as his family crest. An idyllic village pub, the Unicorn's Head is one of the oldest in Nottinghamshire. With its cosy log fires and generously proportioned garden, this historic building is a pub for all seasons. Okay, we're almost at the end of the main walk. You can probably hear in the background there's the school children in the playground of the school, which is the last landmark. It's going to be quite challenging this because it's always difficult when the kids are out in the playground. There's nowhere to point the camera. Hopefully though, with this school, I think I'm going to be okay. Let's talk schools now. Langar School was originally for children of all ages, but after 1954, secondary-age students began attending school elsewhere. Langar was growing at that time, and by 1970 the school became unsuitable for the number of children in the village. To accommodate more, a new two-classroom building was opened here on Barnstone Road in 1976. In 2008, the Barnstone Road site was extended to create a single site for primary and preschool children, and a year later the old school was sold at auction and converted into a 5-bedroom house. Historically speaking, Langar's school history goes back to at least 1829, when a day school existed for 4 boys and 7 girls. Their education was paid for by parents or friends. There was also a Sunday school which opened in 1833 with 12 boys and 12 girls whose books were paid for by Francis Wright. It's not known where either of these schools were held, but many believe they may have been in the church. It wasn't until 1842 that Francis Wright gave a piece of land known as the Rickyard Garden for the old school to be built. Okay, we're all the way around Langar, but there are a couple of things we haven't yet covered. One of them, of course, is the Tarmac plant, which we spoke a little bit about in Barnstone. We're going there next, and after that we need to go to the airfield as well, which is also to the south of these two villages. So without further ado, let's go. Now we're heading on to an industrial estate towards the site of the cement works. Now unfortunately, this is a private road halfway down, which I was unaware of. No matter though, we can still talk a bit about the cement works with some pictures from the internet. Records dating back to 1864 tell us there was a lime kiln here, meaning Barnstone was one of the first places in the country to have one. Cement manufacture began on the site in 1885 when the first rotary kiln was installed. 16 bottle kilns followed in 1886. Barnstone later specialised in manufacturing cements for the mining industry. The premises were later owned by Lafarge. Manufacture of cement clinker ceased in 2006, leaving Barnstone as a specialist cement grinding and blending operation. In 2013, the company merged with Tarmac to become Lafarge Tarmac Limited. Today, the plant employs some 72 people and produces 230,000 tonnes of cement every year. Elsewhere on the industrial estate is the base of Sharps, the bus company which we mentioned briefly in the Elton on the Hill episode on Monday. Now this industrial estate is part of the former RAF Langar. Now in civil use, it's situated on the road between Langar and Harby on the border of Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire. There's a memorial at the entrance not far from the control tower. It was erected on the initiative of the local community and was unveiled by Mrs. Dorothy Ware, the widow of Sergeant Thomas Skelton, lost on operations from Langar in 1943. RAF Langar opened in 1942 during World War II. It was used by both the RAF and the US Air Force. Primarily, it was a troop carrier transport airfield. After the war, it was provided to the Royal Canadian Air Force, who used it as an operational base until 1963. Langar's main associated squadron was 207, a major bomber command unit that participated in raids on occupied Europe. 207 Squadron was equipped with Lancaster bombers. The squadron remained here until October 1943, when it moved to RAF Spilsby. Most of the airfield is relatively intact, and most of the wartime facilities are still in use. Today it's the location for the British parachute schools, who used the original control tower for their headquarters. Part of the base was an Avro aircraft factory. That's now an industrial complex used by a selection of private businesses. There's also a go-karting track here too. And that'll do us for Langar, everyone. With another one ticked off in the Vale of Belvoir, we're now heading north towards Cropwell Butler, but as you know, we've already done that one. Between here and there though, there are two really small parishes. One that's so small in fact, it only has one main house. And that's coming next. Bye for now. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.